All right, here we go. All right, guys, welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast. I'm going to apologize right now. I'm your host, David Holder, but I'm apologizing because I am the only one here today. So if you're sitting on your mower or on your snowblower now, or you're out doing something, you may be sitting in a stand, and you're wondering what in the heck is he going to be able to talk about for any length of time that might be worth a crap. Well, I think I have lots. So, and you guys provided it, and that is, it is deer season. Before I get into that, so that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about some scenarios that seem to be not just one coming up, but multiples of them coming up. Meaning the same scenario keeps coming up time and time again, and people are sending me messages and asking, hey, how do I do this, or what do I do on that? As always, I'm going to tell you, I'm not answering your questions. I'm just giving my opinion. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to tell you that what I am telling you is fact. This is how it works. What I am going to tell you, it might be fact of what I've seen or what I've heard or how it's worked for me. But it's still my opinion. So anyhow, hopefully you can take that for what it's worth. The apology comes, like I said, because I do not have my co-host today. No boys, they're in trees. Partly I understand. Part of me says, no, we should still be doing what we're supposed to be doing. So anyhow, with that being said, I wanted to cover some of this stuff. So without any further ado, we're going to jump in and do that. So what I did was I did not ask anybody to send in questions. I just simply went and looked at questions that have been coming in randomly. So if you hear if you're one of the people that shot me a message, whether it was a personal message, whether it was through social media, whether it was to our website, you may hear me talking about your question today. Hope I don't offend anybody. I'm not going to use any names. Some of them might be kind of touchy subjects. So anyhow, long story short, we're going to talk about them. I think the one that I need to talk about first, and Nick is here with me today. Nick is kind of loyal. He's behind the camera there. So the Jeremy Rupp 6 and stuff, let's give Nick a little pat on the back, However, Jeremy, I have some stuff for you, like ammunition like no other, on some, what do they call it? Trivia or, what? No, I know, but I'm trying to think of what those are called when you do the little things that I asked him some questions, had him do some math, and brain teasers. Okay, and his brain was teased like no other. So anyhow, long story short, we'll do that some other time. So with that, without any further ado, first subject, because it seems like it's the number one. I'm not going to tell you that it's the number one subject I'd like to be talking about, but something that I do have some opinions on and what's going on, and that is decoys. For whatever reason, right now, lots and lots of people are putting out are shooting questions, and they're talking about, I'm going to put out decoy today. I'm going to put out decoy tomorrow. What do I do? How do I do it? Well, so I'll give you I'm not a huge decoy user. I've used them and successfully. I killed one of my first Pope and Young deer in Illinois off of a decoy, and I'll tell that story in a minute, because first I want to answer some of the questions. So here's kind of the very first thing that I guess I'm seeing is, one, what decoy should I be using? And I think that what I would tell you there is it's going to depend on what time of year. And what I'm talking about when I say what decoy, I'm not talking about what brand. I'm talking about buck or a doe. But I'll talk a little bit about a couple different manufacturers' decoys, simply because it's important in my opinion. So the first one is what decoy. I would tell you that starting now, we're November 8th when we're recording this. So prior to this, up until right now, I would tell you want to be using a buck decoy. Here's why. Because doe decoys, number one, there's probably quite a few does in your area. If there's not, then maybe this doesn't apply to you. But if there's typically more does than there are bucks. And I don't see bucks seeking does necessarily as much as this prior to the rut, meaning pre-rut, and then up into the beginning of the rut. The bucks are really interested in taking and knocking out other bucks and taking their does, or just grabbing a doe. They don't go out of their way to check does, because none of them are in heat, or they're just coming into heat, so it's not that big a deal yet. So if you're wondering whether you should be running a buck or a doe, I would tell you that you want to run a buck. Up like during the pre-rut up until kind of early in the season. Now, someone else might have another way of doing it. Shoot me a message. I'd love to hear what, but don't tell me that it. I want to hear that it's worked. Don't just tell me that, well, I use a doe and so far I haven't killed one yet, but that doesn't do us any good. Because I did kill one, and that would have been first week of November, so right about now. I killed one in Illinois many years ago, and here's where I'll talk about the types of decoys. So someone said the other day, what do you think about this one? And it was, I want to say DSD, I believe, Dave Smith, has a beautiful, looks super realistic. In my opinion, it's not the best decoy out there, or I don't want to say it's not the best. It looks the best. It doesn't have any movement, and that's a problem. I used a Scarface, and Scarface was one that Primos came out with. I don't know if they even still sell Scarface or not now. I don't know. Nick might have to look. But anyhow, the reason I liked that one is because his head moved, bobbled, like just a little bit of wind because he just had a hook that held his head on. And you could turn him. The stand that went in the ground had a stake that went up through the body, and so you could spin him. I could throw fishing line around him, and I could turn that decoy so he faced. They still got one? They do. Okay, so it's still out there, and I still have one. But you can turn that decoy. You can get some movement out of it. The other thing that I did was I took a real deer tail, and I had it tanned. You could get a couple of them tanned probably for $5. Or just put salt on them and hang on to them. And then I screw that. I actually just take a little, like a little metal screw, and screw that tail right to the end so that it waves in the wind. And so you get a little bit of realistic movement. You guys hear me talk about turkeys all the time. I'm just telling you. So when it comes to a decoy, having that movement can be huge. And same thing as turkeys do, deer will do the same. A buck is going to come to the head of that decoy. He is, and so I'm about to give you maybe the greatest tip of all. If you're going to run a buck decoy, pull one antler off. If you pull one antler off, what you are going to do is you're going to force that buck to come around. He's coming to the weak side. Yeah, I know it sounds like a football acronym, but it's not, man. He is going to come to the weak side. So if you get that head facing you, so typically the way I set my decoy is I have him started straight away. And then if a buck approaches right or left, I'll pull him that way. Hopefully I kind of set up, a lot of times you don't have a choice. You're going to have to make him go one way or the other. But I would like to turn his head faced toward the toward the real deer coming. And as he approaches, you kind of keep swinging. And as you keep swinging, next thing you know, that decoy is facing you and he has to swing around inside. So then we talk about distance. I don't put my decoy at 30 yards. And then because I put it at like 15 or 20. Because I want him to swing around, and if he's going to hold up and not come all the way in 10 yards away from the decoy, he's 25 yards away. Okay, if you put it at 25 or 30 yards and he holds up 40-yard shot, and he's kind of amped up because there's another deer there, so he may duck a string a little bit, or hear your bow go off. So I don't do that. I keep them tucked in pretty close. I don't do like turkeys. I don't put them at 6 or 7 yards. That's too close. But 15 to 20. And that allows enough room, too, for that buck to come around the decoy, come in between me and the decoy itself. So, but here's some things to watch for your decoys, because I just had someone just asking me this question as I was driving to do this podcast. That's kind of why this one was my first topic. And he described where he's sitting at. And he described it's a wood lot. He's on the edge of the wood lot. It's kind of a corner of another wood lot, and so there's a big open field, but he doesn't have permission on the other side of the field. So the deer are on the other side on another property. He's trying to pull them out of there. Makes sense. Problem is, if you put that decoy out on that field, I asked him, I said, how many deer did you see the last time you sat there? He said, I saw quite a few, saw several does. Decoy does not go there. I do not put a decoy in a place where you're going to have multiple deer see it, because does don't like buck decoys. Now, you may get some that tolerate it, but for the majority, a doe comes in and wants to feed in a field, and you got that decoy sitting there, and he's not moving. And you don't want to waste your movement on the doe to get her to relax, because then you won't be able to move him again when the buck comes in, so you're kind of screwed. So I don't use decoys in areas where it's high traffic areas of deer, where a lot of deer are going to be able to see the decoy, because otherwise I'm afraid that you're just going to have somebody blow the whole thing before you ever get going. So, but here's the other thing. There are places you don't need a decoy. We hunt a spot. Matter of fact, Nick and I were sitting there the other day, and just to kind of give you guys a brief heads up, we're November 8th. I've had one shooter within shooting range, I guess, unless I count Kentucky. I've had two shooters within shooting range, both of them 3 to 4 minutes after shooting light. And it wasn't legal shooting light that I ran out. My eyes can't see as good as I used to, so I couldn't see my pins. Camera light is marginal at best. Buck comes walking in, and I don't get a shot. But my point is, this is a little hourglass food plot that we have set up. So envision this, that on one end of the food plot, on the big end, is about an acre and a half. And we have a blind down on that end. That would be what we call the north end. Then it kind of hourglasses down to a little funnel and then goes to the south end. The south end is much smaller, and I have a blind on that end. And that one's only probably a half acre. And so when I'm sitting there, I can pretty much shoot all the way across the food plot. It's like 33 or 34 yards all the way across the food plot. When the deer enter the food plot, they're there. I know a lot of guys that, or gals too, that would want to set up and go, man, I'm going to put a decoy right here because it's not a high traffic area. You're going to see some deer come out, but if a buck comes out, he's going to come right to the decoy. You don't need him to. No need for the decoy there. He's already going to be within bow range. So you're just asking for a problem. Here's where I tell you I learned that. I learned that on an antelope hunt one time when I decided we had mounted 2 antelope, and we had one that was just feeding. And so I put him next to a water hole. I'm sitting on a water hole, or it was a doe actually. And so we had the doe next to the water hole, like she's getting a drink. I was like, this is perfect, right? You got a water hole sitting here, antelope come in from a mile away. Those antelope came in, and then they started having a fit. And I'm like, we never had problems with antelope coming to the water. When 95 degrees, middle of the day, here they come right to the water. But these were having an issue. They were having an issue with the decoy because the decoy wasn't moving. It just stayed there and stayed there and stayed there. And they took so long to come in that now it didn't make sense. Why did I put a decoy there? I didn't need it. I had what I needed. I had the water. If you have that food plot, if you have that travel corridor that cuts across, from a fence line to the field, you don't need a decoy. Okay? So make sure you're only utilizing the decoy where you need to. So if you keep that in mind, it's going to narrow down some of your choices. But when you do, it's like, oh, this is game on. I will give you for instance, and again, this goes to the decoy, and this is the one that I would tell you, I've had some other encounters. We've got some footage of deer coming to the decoy that I've used, but this one was maybe my best one. And that was, I'm hunting Illinois many years ago, 15 years ago probably. And I've never been there before. I'm hunting with a buddy, and same kind of thing. There's like an hourglass food plot, but it's not a food plot. This was just like a mowed area, but then there was a narrow roadway between 2 small fields that was maybe 80 to 100 yards wide. I wasn't seeing a lot of deer that we had been hunting there now for a couple days, but I saw a couple decent bucks that I definitely wanted to shoot. So I decided to set a decoy in that little open area right in front of that road. So if something came out in the other little area, it could look down the road and see my decoy. Or if it came out in the field where I was, it would look over and see it, and I could get them across it because it was way too big to shoot across. I mean, it's maybe 100 yards across. So anyhow, set this decoy up. It was kind of like it is today. It was pouring down raining. They hadn't had any rain in forever. I got in the blind before dark. Before it got light. Got the decoy set up 16 yards away. I want to explain this because this is how, so this is funny. The buddy that I'm hunting with, his mom had a party while we were there for us to invite, because he was home seeing family, because we both lived in Montana at the time. We had driven to Illinois to hunt, or flown into Illinois. So we couldn't bring our own decoy. So anyhow, there's a gentleman there. He's a barber. And he's like, I have a decoy. You can come by and borrow it, And I was like, I don't know if I want to use it or not. But, and he's like, no, seriously, I got one right in my backyard. You're more than welcome. And then I got to thinking, I was like, that would work in this spot. I'm going to do that. So we go over that morning. I haven't seen it, right? So I pull over to his house to get it. He told me he wasn't going to be home. This is where you get it. I walk around back. And for those of you listening that are older than 35, you'll know what I'm talking about. In his backyard is his decoy. His decoy is not a decoy at all. His decoy is the backyard buck. Yes, the Walmart version of a deer target, right? So it is solid, like it's brown, I'll give it that, and it has two legs. It's supposed to be four, that go straight down. It is about, I don't know, 8-10 inches wide, something like that. And then its ears are two solid ears, but it's got antlers that go on top of it. And he did what everyone else done. He has shot his shot his target quite a bit and chewed up the vital area. So what does every guy that's older than 35 do at that time? You go buy some great stuff foam and you squirt it in there and you smear it on there and then it bubbles up. So he's got these great big warts sticking out on his shoulder. And I'm telling my buddy, I don't think we want to take that, and he's like, and then he's like, we better take it because we told him we were going. And I was like, you're absolutely right. We have to take it. At least I can take it in the truck and maybe I won't use it. Well, as we drove out that morning, I'm like, I'm going to throw it out there. Maybe by the time he figures it out, it'll be too late. So I would tell you that honestly, the backyard buck, if you had to give him a weight value, probably a 75-pound deer. I mean, if that's what he would look like standing there. So I pull one antler off on my side, and I got him right in front of me, 16 yards away. I don't have any movement to him. He's going to have to be just the way he is. And I climb in my tree, and it starts to rain, and it rained over 2.5 inches that day, and it was 34, 35 degrees. It sucked. I'll just tell you. But I had already committed. I'm staying. And I don't, at this time, there's no this cell phone stuff. I can't watch radar. I'm just praying that it quits at some point. About 4 o'clock that afternoon, finally it starts to break. I have taken my gloves and I had an extra pair of gloves. I put them inside my rain pants, thinking I'll keep these to keep them warm and dry so that later on, if my rain gear starts to leak, because it's pouring rain. I've been out there since 5 o'clock in the morning. It's now 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I look up and it has quit raining. But I'm telling you, when I talk about hard rain, it rained so hard that at 16 yards, I could not see the decoy 2 or 3 times during the day. That's how hard it was raining. But I stuck it out. About 4 o'clock, I look up and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I see a blue sky thing, one of those where like the clouds are so heavy and they're thick. And then you look up and you can see something through there. I'm like, oh, no way. So I got about an hour before dark and this little blue sky thing pops out and I'm like, oh yeah. Get my gloves on, and I reached down to get my gloves. And now this is the first time I've really moved. I kind of just stood still all day, and my armpits are soaked. I now realize that everywhere that there is a crease, the water has gotten in, including my crotch where I was hiding my 2 dry gloves they're warm, but they're wet. But I put them on anyhow because they're warm. And so I slipped them on. I grabbed my rattling antlers, and I was like, I'm going to just try something here. And before I could do that, I look up in the CRP about 250, 300 yards away, and I see a buck walking across the CRP. Mind you, I haven't seen a deer all day, nothing. And here goes a buck, and I can tell it's a decent buck, as all I know. So I'm like, go for it, man. So I whack those antlers together, but he goes just through the opening. I can't see him. I don't know. So I always look at my watch whenever I rattle so that I know how long after I rattle was there a response, or I kind of envision what I think. So anyhow, about 10 minutes goes by, he doesn't show up. And I'm like, if he were walking like he was and he was coming this direction, he would be down in this bottom with me by now. So I'm going to hit the antlers one more time. So I reach around to grab the antlers, and because I had a hook there, and I reached around to grab those antlers and start to rattle again. And I look over and he's standing in the food plot. I'm like, no way. He's walking across the food plot. He has no clue I'm there. He's not looking at me or anything. Doesn't see the decoy. He's just walking across. So I reach back, hang the antlers back up, and I grab my grunt call because I don't want to spook him with the antlers. And I went, brr. Boy, when I did, he stopped and he turned and he looked, and there was the backyard buck standing in his food plot, and he did not like it. Here he comes, starts walking straight at me. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh. Now I'm looking at this point, this is the largest deer I will have ever shot. What I didn't realize is how big the deer was. I'll get to that in a minute. He walks in, does exactly what he's supposed to do. He comes around to the weak side, so my shot is like 14, 15 yards as he comes perfectly quartered away, not even quartered away, kind of broadside to quartered away. He's looking at the decoy. So I get the full draw, no problem. Here comes another one of those 35 and over questions or statements. When I shoot, my bow is like a muzzleloader going off. because I have puffs on my bowstring, and they are soaking wet. Everything is soaking wet. So when it goes off, I can't see anything, just this big spray. And when the spray clears, he's run out in the field about 60 yards. He's standing out there, and I hit him right square, smack dab in the middle of the body. I'm like, oh no. Gut shot, basically, or maybe I got liver. But I mean, you couldn't square it right in the center of the body. I did not hit him like I should have at 12 yards. And I don't know if the water had something, I don't know if me being cold, or maybe I was just nervous. I don't know. But anyhow, I decided, and I tell everyone this, all bets are off when distance-wise, when you get an arrow in a deer, I'm trying to get another arrow in him. So I take another shot at him. That spooks him, and he runs out of the field because I didn't even come close to hitting him on that one. And he goes out of the field, but I don't even go look for him. I said, okay, I'm just going to hold off here. I went over and found my arrow because it was right there by the decoy, and it's covered in blood. And I was like, well, that's good. And so I backed out. So I went and got my buddy, him and the guy that we're hunting with, they did not hunt that day because of the rain. They just said no. And so I get home and I tell them what's going on. And so we go back the next morning, long story short, about 300 yards from there, we find my deer. He hadn't gone very far at all. There was blood on the ground. He was gut shot for sure, but we had enough blood to follow. I'm figuring, I look back now and I'm sure I clipped part of the liver. That deer, we don't know, the meat locker called us after we turned it in and said, hey, did you guys happen to weigh this deer? And we're like, no, we didn't weigh it. And they said, well, the reason we ask is because we have 215 pounds hanging here, and there's no feet, meaning legs. I cut them off at the kneecaps, no legs, no hide, no head, and yet this is still 215 pounds. You had to have almost a 300-pound deer, real close to a 300-pound. Can you imagine what that buck thought when he walked up to the 75-pound backyard buck when he was about to destroy him? It was humorous. But my point with that whole thing is it doesn't necessarily have to be the best decoy in the world. One thing you don't want to use is a two-dimensional decoy. You want a three-dimensional decoy that they can walk around unless you're doing something where you're behind the decoy. A couple other things that you don't want to do with your decoys. Don't leave them out overnight. If you set your decoys up, pull them down. I don't care if you leave them there, but do not leave them stood up because you're just educating deer. They're going to come in and they're going to throttle your deer while you're not there. And then you're going to have a situation where they'll never probably come to another decoy. So don't take your decoys out, and don't ever use a decoy during a gun season. These are things I've seen people do. And the worst one was, again, go back to antelope hunting. I watched two guys behind a decoy opening day of rifle season in Montana. And they were just looking to get killed. They were using a buck decoy and they were behind it. So don't do something like that. So there's a couple things to keep in mind on the decoy side, on the buck decoy side. Now let's flip. Why would we go to a doe? And I probably still wouldn't go to a doe for another week or 10 days. And the reason is I want to wait till they are running out of does. And now the bucks are really going to be aggressive, especially the mature bucks that have been through this before. They've gotten to breed 5 or 6 does or something like that, and now it's running out. And now they're like, okay, hold on, we need to find one more. And so now having a doe decoy out becomes, in my opinion, the better choice. Because the other thing is they've fought with all kinds of bucks. They're starting to get worn down. They're a little tired. They start to avoid some of the fights and try to get on with what they want to do. And so making that switch later on, and again, the best one that I have seen as far as a doe decoy, I don't quote me on this, I'm not positive, but I believe it was Flambeau. Makes a doe, like a ready doe, I think they called it, is the one I have. And she's in a posture like ready to be bred. And it does not move. I don't have movement other than I do put the same tail on. I screw that tail on all of mine. So anyhow, that's the only thing there, but I don't have a way of moving her around. She's just going to be stand still. But again, don't put her in places where there's going to be a whole lot of other does around, or in a place where there's a whole lot of other deer because you're asking for trouble. And don't put it in a place where you don't need it. So there's what I would tell you kind of, that's like a 10,000 feet look at decoying. There's a lot more to it as far as wind, which way the wind's blowing and which way they're going to enter and things like that. I guess the one other thing that I should add, because we sell scents, and a lot of people have wrote in and asked me or texted or contacted us and said, if I'm going to put put a decoy out, which scent do I put on it? Don't put any of them on the decoy. Put them on a rag or something like that, like a little piece of white cloth or something like that. So it's, especially if you're going to end up leaving the decoy overnight or something where you're going to lay it down, I don't want any scent on that. So I want something that I can put on there, a little drag rag thing, lay it. You could lay that on his forehead or something like that. But I would put either Buck Junkie or Scrape King up around his head somewhere. And then anything else, LHD, maybe Scrape Addict. I might even go Scrape Queen. No, take that back. I would, LHD or Scrape Addict would be the only other two I would use with the decoy, and I would put it underneath the decoy. I wouldn't put it on the decoy at all. Scrape Queen, I mix my Scrape Queen sometimes with LHD, so that's what I'm saying. I'll spray some of that. I might put that on the ground as well, but the LHD I would run. That's our doe urine, doe and heat. So there's what I would do as far as scents go on the decoys. Hopefully you've got enough things going on already between them being able to see it and hear it if you're grunt, because I do now have your calls ready, have your grunt call, have your snort wheeze, have your rattling antlers handy to go in conjunction with your decoy, because it can be a huge situation. I mean, it can be really phenomenal. And a lot of times you're not going to kill the bucks that come in won't be big and things like that. But it's just so much fun watching these deer react to it. It's cool. A buddy of ours, Shane, many of you guys probably have seen Shane. He's got some of the best reactions ever. I mean, he's got his decoy. The great thing about it, it comes in pieces, and it's a good thing because these deer explode his into multiple pieces. They will crush it when they want to. So, you could get a lot more technical, like ear position and things like that. I'm not going to do that right now. I just wanted to kind of answer those. All right, let me tackle the next question, because I got two more that I have written down here that I know for a fact that I want to cover. I don't know which one is more timely or whatever. One is just kind of a reiteration. I'll do it first. So we had someone that contacted me and said, or actually they didn't contact me. They were just talking in general and said, hey, I just went into my stand and I got there, and the next door neighbor, and I believe that the next door neighbor is public land. Okay, so it could be a lot of people. Someone set up a tree stand right on the fence line, and then they put a trail camera up. Now it's on the public land, so it's legal, but it's facing his way. You know, it's getting pictures off of his property. He was angry, and trust me, I've been there. And I'll go into something that I don't want to say I'm proud of it, but I go back to that situation, and I probably would make that statement. But it was a little different situation. I'll get there in a minute. So anyhow, so he was angry. You know, he was like, man, this guy is obviously trying to kill deer on my side. Maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, if the tree that you're in is on the fence, and it's on the correct side of the fence, and you go up, I can remember using a hang-on stand. I always climbed a tree, and I always kept the tree between me and where I thought the deer were coming from. That's how I hunted. So my stand was facing that way, but I never faced, and for those of you that can't see me, I didn't face the same way that the seat was sitting, because I used the tree to hide behind. So I would face the wrong way, but my intention is to shoot on either side of the tree. That is just how I did it when I hunted out of a hang-on stand. So even though a stand could be facing the property he's not supposed to shoot on, that doesn't mean he's going to do that. So anyhow, so the situation, but I mean, don't get me wrong, and you see that and you're like, dang it, someone else is trying to, hunt here. I mean, just the fact they found the same area you did. But at the same time, that's all it really is someone else doing the same thing you're doing. So please remember that. Remember that they're just trying to kill a deer too. However, we've talked about this. We've had people that say, that's just not right. You shouldn't be hunting 10 yards from the property line. Well, I'm here to tell you that if I have a private piece of property or I'm hunting public, I'm going to utilize every inch of it. Meaning if I find a trail that is going across the fence where they're going to a place I can't hunt, but I think that they're going to be on my side of the fence where I can shoot and I can hunt for a length of time, and that's where I need to be to get a shot, I'm going to do it. It's 100% legal. I've done nothing wrong. And I don't see that wrong with anyone else doing that. Now, would I shoot across the fence? Absolutely not. It just doesn't happen. I can tell you right now, I have stands that are right on fence lines. Have we ever shot across the fence? Not once. Not going to. At the same time, I know places where we hunt that they have stands that are same thing, facing us. The only thing that I would tell someone is maybe you want to try to contact that person and just say, hey, just so you know, I do hunt over here, so, make sure you're not shooting on my side of the ground or whatever, and don't be a jerk about it. And next thing you know, maybe you got someone who shares information with you. Nothing better than ending up with a neighbor or someone else hunting in an area, if they're going to be hunting anyhow, that you guys can share info and you share trail camera photos, or you talk about who killed what, and now hey, I'm sitting in a tree and that deer doesn't even exist anymore. He's dead. It could be a huge benefit. So that was one of the things that had come up here this week. And I just wanted to make sure that I threw that out there. You just don't, and the laws are different in every state. In Iowa, we can go across a fence as long as we lay our bow down, and as long as we're the only one that shot the animal. If there's a blood trail going across there, I don't even have to call the landowner. Don't do that. I'm a landowner. I'm also a hunter that's been in the situation of just shot a deer and it went on someone else's property. Just simply try to get a hold of them. Do everything you can to get a hold of them. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. But even if you don't, leave them a note. Or if you know who they are, shoot them a text. Hey, I'm out here. I need to go try to recover a deer. We're not letting anyone, because in Iowa, they can go no matter what. We don't have to let them. However, I appreciate the ethic part of it. When someone comes to my house, I'll go with them and help them if a deer runs across our property. That's just the way it works, but a lot of states, you can't do that. You cannot set foot over there unless you get permission. So make sure that make sure you know the laws first, and make sure you're getting what you need to get that done. All right, scenario 3. And I know I'm kind of going through these at a 10,000 foot view, but it's because there's so many. So the next one, though, is I just got this one today as well. You're going into it's November 8th, let's just say, okay? So you still got some season left, but the rut is definitely going. Rut is in full swing. I got 2 scenarios here I want to throw at you. First one is rut's in full swing. You see the buck you're looking for, okay? I mean, whether that's one that's target buck or whether it's just a buck you're willing to shoot, but he's hemmed up with a doe. I mean, he is at a doe and he's just out of shooting range, whatever your shooting range is. And he's not leaving that doe. He's standing there with her. Everywhere she goes, he's right there, but he's not chasing her around. He's just staying with her. She might even bed down. He just stands over top of her. What do you do? What are you going to do in that situation? Are you throwing the grunt call at him? Are you throwing the rattling horns at him? Are you going to do everything that you can to possibly, try to get that deer away from that doe? Because I'm here to tell you that has never worked for me. I've done that. I've tried to get him away, and it does not work. If anything, it may push him away or push the doe away. Now, I will say this. Once in a while, when a doe is being chased, I have grunted at does being chased, and they've come right to me. They're one of 2 effects that were going on there. I'm not sure which one it was. One is, I don't know if at that point she is going into heat or is in heat, and so she's just simply trying to make herself available to all the bucks so that she then sorts out who's going to get to do the deed. Or is she trying to get him away from her, meaning the buck that is following so closely and all over, and she's tired of it. Maybe she's not in heat, but I've had them run right underneath my tree, and here comes the buck right along with them. So during the chase like that, I've grunted at them, and they've come right to me. The does come right to me. So there's one little way. But in the situation that I talked about, a buck, let's just call him tending the doe. He's standing over the doe. He's not doing anything else. I hate to tell you this, but don't do anything. Don't just sit and wait and hope and pray that she works her way over toward you, but you cannot start throwing calls and things like that at him. It's not going to do you any good. And then the next one that goes with that is when you do rattle a buck in or grunt a buck in, or a buck comes in, but something happens. He wins you. He sees you. He hears your stand click or your release go off or something, but something alerts him that something is wrong, and now he takes his time, though, leaving. Like, he's looking around. He doesn't know what it was, and he starts to walk away, but he's alert. Okay, he's alert in the situation of, like, he's not comfortable anymore. Do not do the please God call. That's what I call it. It's please God. you're going to throw a grunt call at him. Please, God, let him turn around. Because now he's just going to walk straight away. And the next time that he hears a grunt call, he's going the other direction. Don't educate him. So keep the please God call in your pocket. Okay? The please God call is that day when, you haven't seen anything and he's cutting. I would call my antlers that day when it was raining and he comes out that far. That was, please God, let this work. But I had nothing to lose. And the other thing that I would tell you when it comes to rattling, and I do it a bunch, I only do it on days when the wind is solid. If you get those days when there's 2-mile-an-hour wind and it's just swirling around, it's really nice out, it's 34 degrees, it's calm, man, they're going to hear this forever. They're never going to get to you because they're going to get downwind. So I'm looking for a day when the wind is 10, 15 miles an hour, solid in the direction that I needed, and in that direction, I'm talking about that buck that day when he came, he was straight west of me, and it was a strong west wind, so he had no way to get downwind of me. So keep those things in mind. So that is scenario one of the buck tending the doe that we just talked about. The next one, though, is it's still this time of year. Okay, it's November 8th, because my answer may change in 10 days. We're at the 18th, 20th, something like that. And here's why. So this situation is you got a spot that you really want to go to. You hung a stand, you've been in there all summer, maybe you used our scents on scrapes, and you got bucks coming, and everything is set up right now, and the rut has kicked off. Okay, you've seen bucks chasing, maybe you've even seen a doe that's been bred or actually the breeding going on, but the rut is going. And when you set this stand, you set it for a particular wind, okay? And you're like, okay, I just need a west wind, northwest wind, whatever it is, and that'll be perfect. However, to this point, you haven't killed a buck yet, you haven't got a shot at a buck yet, and you want to get to that stand, and the rut is going. And the reason that it's important that we understand that the rut is the decision maker here is that now is when people will tell you, and I'm not saying they're wrong. Again, this is David Holder's opinion. That's it. And if I had Warren and Easton sitting here, their opinion might be completely different. But my point is, so now we have a situation where maybe they're not always going to come in from that direction that we expect them to. So can we kind of throw that out the window and say, it's a marginal wind. Maybe it's not completely wrong, but maybe I want straight west and it's got a little northwest in it. Are you going to cut the corner? Are you going to say the rut is going on and I'm going in anyhow? Or are you going to say I'm going to wait until the wind is right? Know that eventually I will hopefully get it. So that was the question that this gentleman posed. And I gave him this answer, and I will stick by this answer. But again, my answer may change in 10 days. And my answer was, we just had this morning. Nick and I were talking about where we're going to go this afternoon, or yesterday. I think was it this morning or yesterday, Nick? When we were talking about, I had 3 choices, and I was like, the wind is right at this one. It was yesterday. So, and we come up with 3 scenarios. Okay, this spot, or this spot. Wind is perfect at this spot. And if it gives me that little shift, like maybe they're talking about a west wind going northwest or east wind going southeast, I'm good either way. And here's why I would tell you, I always err to the spot where the wind is. One, it's worked for me. I've gone to spots and that I strictly had no idea that there was the buck that I was looking for was in that area at the time. No trail camera telling me anything, but the wind was right to hunt what I knew that the homework I had done prior to said they would be here and it should be good. And I killed a booner. I killed a Boone and Crockett buck. I killed a deer called Splits because I followed my gut. I was planning on going somewhere else that morning. We got up. Wind was not doing what they said. We went with the wind, and it worked. That's not the only time that it's worked. However, the other reason is, and this is why I tell you, you have to find what works for you. And that is, I go with the wind because when I sit down in that stand or I stand in that stand and the wind is hitting me right in the face exactly where I want it to, my confidence level is through the roof. I'm like, okay, we're game on here. I got the wind in my favor. That is the number one thing that makes me feel good in a stand or not. That's the first thing that when I climb in a stand and the wind hits me exactly where I was expecting, life is good. Nick can vouch for when it's not good, when we get in a stand and it starts to swirl, or they just missed it, or I didn't pay attention and it's wrong. I'm furious. I'm not in a good headspace. If a deer came in, I have a hard time shooting it because I'm terrified the entire time that he's going to get downwind. Or, how does this happen? Or if you're not seeing anything, now I know. Maybe it's not true, but in my head, I'm not seeing anything because the wind's blowing where it's not supposed to be. And I have no confidence whatsoever. So if you're trying to make a decision, that's how I make that decision. I go with the wind. And I go with the wind because then when I get there, I have that confidence level of, okay, everything is good. This afternoon, Nick and I are going to a completely different farm because we have a wind that should be perfect for where we're going. And so that's what we're going off of. We're going there to hunt the wind. I got lots of other deer and other places that I would like to be hunting, but I can't get the wind just right. I will go so far as 3 times I can think of this year. Nick's been with me, I think 1 or 2 of those for sure. I had another camera guy one day. And that is, you get there and the wind is wrong. You can either suck it up and say, I'm going to try and pull this off, which is kind of the same scenario this gentleman was just asking. Or you can abandon your afternoon or your morning or whatever and say, I don't want to mess this up. I've done both, even this year. One, I kind of held off. One doe came in, winded us. Second one came in, winded us. I'm out. The second time, that was it. I'm not doing it. And especially, it was not like they weren't winding me from where I wanted everything. They just happened to come from the wrong direction. They were exactly where the wind should never have been, and they were getting wind of us. So the first one I kind of held, then second one I'm done. Went to another spot later on. First one that came in, I'm sitting there and I am 100% not count. I'm like, this is not good. I feel like I've got the wind checker going. And if you've got your wind checker in your hand and you're having to check it that often, you're probably in the wrong spot. And I should know that. And I'm sitting there with a wind checker and I'm checking. I'm like, oh, it's good right now. Oh, wait, there it goes. And sure enough, I saw a deer that didn't even make it to where it just walked, kind of started like it was coming our way and then went the other way. I have no idea whether it winded us or not, but at that point I was done. We're out. So, and we have veered and gone to other stands. So there's all kinds of things that you can do when it comes to that. But that's the decision that I make is I go with the wind. Now let's fast forward that to, you only got a week left in the season. And the buck you're looking for is in a location where you need him to be, and you still got a tag in your pocket, and maybe you don't even have another day to hunt. You got nothing to lose at that point. I can't tell you how many deer I have killed when I was down to my last day, like a lot of times going to another state or something like that. That Illinois buck that I'm talking about that I shot over the decoy, I had nothing to lose. The next day was our last day. So I was down to the last 2 days. It's like 8 days. We wasn't an outfit or anything, just a friend. So, but we couldn't extend it. So when you have that going, when you're up against that, you got nothing to lose. Then I might say I'm going in here because this is where the deer are. They're not over here. I need to be there. I'm going to have to see if I can get away with the wind. But the one thing that I would tell you, our cover scent or our cover spray or whatever, ozone, no matter what you use, you can try everything. It may help. And that's why we call ours one step. I just need them to take one more step a lot of times. But none of it is going to make me 100% disappear scent-wise. I can't remember who it was that had the commercial that they were like, forget the wind, just hunt. Forget them, because that's wrong. It ain't happening. You're not going to beat them 100%. It might help. And I'm not saying that you don't get away with some stuff, but at the same time, you cannot just forget the wind, just hunt. In my opinion, the wind is the number one savior and the one that defies them. The days you kill, the wind was in your favor. The days you don't, the wind was in their favor a lot of times. Sometimes we're just in the wrong spot. But so there's a couple answers to a couple difficult scenarios or questions. I have a few more. Let me see but Nick, do we have any more that I need to? Okay, I got another one says he just pulled up to a spot and the deer is actually in the field. What do you do then? You got to let him leave. Let me see here. Okay, so I think I got all the decoy ones. I think I covered all that. Okay. Let me, and then the last one I'm going to cover, and maybe this one's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? This one's kind of selfish in a way. And that is, I'm getting tons of questions. Hey, your guys' scents, can I keep using them during hunting season? 100%. So just so that you guys know, and probably most of you listening to the podcast have heard us say it enough, but just in case you haven't, our scents are designed to be able to use them 365 days a year. And I say that with so much confidence because I can't tell you how many we have videos of bucks coming to specifically like a rub tree. Rub tree gets snapped off. It's 8 or 10 inches tall. And we have bucks coming and rubbing that tree in January, in February. We have bucks that have lost an antler come in and rub that tree. We have a buck that comes in with no antlers on his head. It's February and there's only a stub and he comes in and he rubs the tree. We have bucks trying to get the piece of the tree that had been rubbed on that broke off, trying to get it off the ground with their antlers. We have snow that covers the ground and leaves the stub where it's only 3 or 4 inches tall, bucks rubbing on the tree. We have bucks that clear scrapes and clear them out in January and February. We don't utilize it much because we're not really getting much information in that February, March, April. We're picking up sheds. We're looking at trails and things like that. We don't need deer coming to a scrape or something like that. But the glands were designed, we didn't design the gland. The glands are there so those deer can communicate with each other all the time. So the scents will work all of the time. But the same scents that you've used in the pre-rut will keep those scrapes active. I carry Scrape King with me everywhere. That's my go-to spray. And then I'll take, that's the preorbital of a buck. And because I'm spraying it on my rub tree a lot, I don't want to carry everything with me when I'm hunting. So I carry just Scrape King in my pocket. And when we go check the card on a camera because we hunted there, I spray the top of the tree. I don't spray the face of it anymore. I only did that with Buck Junkie oil or Buck Junkie spray at the beginning of the season. Got them interested in once they get going. Now I just want that preorbital, that eye on there. And if there's a scrape, I do the same thing. I spray above the scrape, or on a hemp rope, I'll spray that Scrape King on that. The other one that I've started carrying is Scrape Addict. And so then I have 2 spray bottles that I'm packing with me when I'm hunting. And that is to freshen a scrape. Scrape King goes above, whether that's on the limb or whether that's on the leaves, whether that's on the tree, on the top of the tree. And Scrape Addict, I spray on the ground. That is our community scrape scent. It's got interdigital, it's got tarsal gland, it's got all the glands from bucks and does mixed. So I spray that on the ground. And that's the only 2 that I'm carrying during hunting. Now, I don't want to say that's all I'm using during hunting season, because I still go check some cameras when I'm not hunting and I freshen my scrapes. And I'm still using Buck Junkie. I'm still using Scrape King. Easton's big on using Scrape Queen. And I've had more people this year that have started adding Scrape Queen like a week ago. And they're seeing a better result of more deer hitting their scrape because that's the doe preorbital. And so I'm like, yeah, maybe I need to do that. I just haven't had a chance to do all of it. And then the last one that I've now implemented, we sell it as a rut kit, is I'm drag ragging to every stand. I've got, and what I'm doing is a little bit of Scrape Queen. I spray on there and LHD. And then that's our only urine scent that we sell, and I drag it in. I figure, what can it hurt? You know, if a buck hits it, and actually Nick and I had 2 bucks that followed us in the other day, and I'm pretty sure just the way because we came down a fence line and we had to hop the fence, and I thought maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Well, then they hopped the fence same place we did, and then I also didn't have the rag on the ground, got in some like brush, and so I was dragging it like through the brush, and it was up high. And I watched that buck like walk along that stuff. And I was like, oh, he definitely is following where I laid that scent. We didn't kill it. He wasn't big enough to kill, but he did get within bow range. So there's my, hopefully guys, I'm hoping that this is timely enough. We'll see when we put this one out, but we want to get this out to you guys pretty quick because I do think there's some solid information. So if you guys want more information on decoys or whatever, shoot us messages. I'm thinking that we have started getting so much questions about decoys specifically now, about scent specifically, about land management specifically, that I think what we're going to do is try to build some tutorials, I guess you'd call them, or like a whole class for just that. And I don't know whether we'll put them on Patreon or on our YouTube page or something like that, but we won't have them ready until like summer. I'd like to have them in 2026 by June or July. So you guys would be able, you got questions. Hopefully we'll have as many answers. We'll never have all the answers. And again, I'm not giving you the answer. I'm just giving you my opinion. But I will back that up with saying I've been bow hunting now for I've been deer hunting for 47 years, and I've been bow hunting for 40 of those. So there you go. I trust me, that doesn't mean I know everything. It means I've tried a whole lot of stuff, and I am that guy that will take a chance and try something that most of you won't. And I don't blame you, but I've always had not always, but there are a lot of part of my life I had the time. When I worked in the fire department, I had weeks off because I worked all the other time so I could be off the entire hunting season. And so I tried things that other people wouldn't try, with decoys, with scents, I just throwing blinds, and Nick and I just brushed a blind in the other day. And so I have some like absolutes on blinds, and I'm not telling you that I'm right. I'm just telling you what's worked for me. I've not brushed a blind in, got in it, and killed a deer the same day. I've brushed blinds in, had them walk by within minutes, and they had no idea it was there. Does that mean that I'm great? No. It just means that I've learned from all the mistakes I made when I put up a blind and they freaked out and ran off. And so I was like, I need to get better at this. I need to do this better. Nick and I put one up 4 days ago. We climbed in it yesterday, and not a single deer paid any attention to us. And the one buck was at one time he was like 19 yards, I think, something like that. So anyhow, I hope that our whole reason, our whole goal, or my whole goal is to help you guys kill another deer, is why we're doing these podcasts, is why we're doing the videos and things like that, is why we're packing a cameraman and a camera into a tree, is so we can show you what we're doing so that you can see it firsthand, and then you can make the determination. It's the same thing about our scents. I'd love to sit here and tell you they're the greatest thing on earth. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm going to say watch the videos that we get from when we use the scents and see how it works and see what you think. So with that being said, I sure appreciate you guys. I think I'm supposed to do a wacky fact. I'm not sure what I did not come prepared for a wacky fact. Do you have one, Nick? Oh, I put him on the spot. He was not ready for that. I'm thinking that there's probably one like within let's see. I could throw one out there. Something about the boys. What would be a wacky fact about them? I don't think it's a wacky fact. I think everyone probably knows that Easton's the only one that hasn't killed a booner, right? That's okay. But he's the youngest. That would make sense, right? You have to have enough time in the chair to get to a chance to kill one, right? I'm trying to think, is there something about like how old? See, Easton, I think, is the youngest to kill a turkey with his bow. All right. Okay. Okay, Nick's got us a wacky fact, so I'm gonna repeat it for you. So when he reads it to me. All right. So in the 1830s, ketchup was sold as a medicine in the 1830s. That's what I want. I want to know what that would have been. Because that makes me think of, that is kind of cool, but what did it work for? What did it do? What did they think it did?
Okay, so in the 1830s, ketchup was used as a medicine to treat ailments such as indigestion, diarrhea, jaundice, and rheumatism.
Okay, so he's telling me that people were using ketchup to stop diarrhea, to stop, what was the other one? Indigestion. Jaundice, which I don't know how that would, but I'm sure it's the acid in the Ketchup. That's got to be what's going on. They're thinking. And rheumatism, like arthritis, right? Huh. Well, I don't know if that's true or not. Because correct me if I'm wrong. This is maybe but it's not a wacky fact. But isn't aspirin from a tree? It's when they, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm way wrong on what tree. I want to say maybe an aspen tree, but that's where it started. Like, I want to say the Native Americans, Indians, were eating tree bark, and it was helping with all kinds of pain and stuff like that. And then we took it on and then started grinding it up and turned it into willow bark. But it's tree. It's a tree. So there you go. So we did have a wacky fact. You daggone right. Watch this little button man ain't even here. Well, I don't even know how to turn the damn thing on. So I guess we're not going to do a little button man thing. Oh, yeah, that right there. Ooh, he's going to be so pissed. All right. Guys, I would love to tell you that we would hang out some more, but we don't have time because we are going to climb back in a tree. Appreciate you guys. Do us a favor. Go to the website. If you guys have questions about products and things like that, do us a favor. Do not send those to the social media pages. Go to the website. We have forms for everything. Fill them out. If you got a problem with an order, just go to our website and fill that out. Our social media is strictly for us to visit with you guys and talk. And if you kill something, though, send us pictures. You can send that through social media and things like that. But we sure appreciate you guys. Thanks for your time. Hopefully, if you're sitting in a blind or sitting in a stand at something that I talked about here today, or maybe you're grabbing a decoy before you head out, or maybe you're going to sit on a property line. I don't know. But whatever you do it well. And do it to your fullest ability, man. Don't hold back. Give it 110%. So if you're thinking about getting out of your stand because it's raining or it's cold or it's windy, come on, suck it up and stay a little longer. And you never know what might come of it. So, all right, guys, appreciate you guys. I'm David Holder from Raised Hunting, and we are signing off. Later.